Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. Today is Tuesday, July 29th. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and summer recruiting is coming to a close, but not before we knock out a couple more big commitments, including a big one here on Saturday, right here on the Rivals Recruits channel. Devon Benjamin, one of the only elite DBs left on the board, is going to be committing on Saturday night. Make sure you guys are subscribed so you get those notifications. The only way to get notified when we go live is to be a subscriber, and boy, do we have a big one for Saturday, so jump on board and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in the great Steve Wiltfong, and we're going to start with a little Tennessee because the Vols made some noise last night. The recruitment of 6'4" athlete Joel Wyatt is over. Steve, not a big surprise that he's staying in state with Tennessee, but Vandy. I think Vandy might have led for a majority of this recruitment. How did Tennessee win it in the end?
Well, I think they finally got on the same page for how they were going to use Joel Wyatt schematically. In my opinion, no program recruited him harder from a relationship standpoint than the Vols. No program, when he got on campus, made him feel at home more than Josh Heupel and his coaching staff. I think from an NIL perspective, no program was in a better spot on that front than the checkered orange. It was about what position are you going to play me at? This is one of the more versatile prospects in this class. He's someone that can be a dynamic wide receiver. He's terrific in the secondary where he shined at the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. And then Tennessee was originally projecting him 6'4", 205 pounds, as someone that could be explosive off the edge. And they were talking to him about being the next James Pierce. The thing is, Joel Wyatt doesn't want to be the next James Pierce. He's viewed by his circle more in the Jalen Ramsey mold, someone that can be a difference maker in the secondary. Tennessee ultimately pivoted. Coach Banks and company said, look, we think you can ball anywhere. You can play in the back end. And once they dotted those I's and crossed those T's, it was a foregone conclusion that Joel Wyatt would go to Tennessee, Oklahoma, Georgia, some programs that maybe tried to make a late run. Louisville was in there, but it's Tennessee over Vandy for Joel Wyatt. They checked all the boxes, the final one being how they were going to use him on defense. Tennessee has been on an upward trajectory on that side of the football since Coach Heupel, Coach Banks and company landed in Knoxville. It was a championship caliber defensive unit last year. Joel Wyatt keeps it humming for years to come. Another big win for Tennessee for a top target as they push towards the top 10 class, Josh.
Right, yeah, pushing towards that top 10 class, and Tennessee's summer surge might not be over. We got another athlete, the number 2 athlete in America, Celesi Moa. He's going to announce later this week. He's 6'2", 175 pounds. Now, Tennessee might have to pull another rabbit out of the hat for this one, Steve.
Yeah, this is one where I think they're still playing from behind, but they're continuing to have regular dialogue into decision week with Celesi, his family, his camp, and they've given him a lot to think about. They talked to him about being a two-way player, a guy that could be a difference maker at wide receiver and in the secondary. That's attractive to him. The SEC is attractive to him. Utah is where my prediction is at going into the decision week. My intel still rides with the Utes as of Monday, but Tennessee still continuing to push. We'll see how far they can go in the Celesi Moa recruitment here as they try and beat Utah, pull him out of that state, and add him to a class that, again, has a chance to finish in the top 10. He would be another pickup that would be huge. He's been one of the best 7-on-7 players I've seen this circuit. On game day, he is a physical guy, but he's got ball skills that can make things happen when he's got the football in space. One of the best prospects in America. Tennessee giving him a lot to think about. Utah still has the edge in my mind.
All right. Now, if Tennessee is to finish inside the top 10, number 1 running back Savion Hyder would really help them get there. He's making his decision August 19th. This is one where, I mean, they're not behind. It could be a coin flip right now between Tennessee and Michigan. I mean, how do you see it, Steve?
Well, I think when you talk to sources around Knoxville and the Tennessee program, people that have spent time with Savion Hyder and his family throughout his many visits to campus, there's been times where UT has felt like they have led for Savion Hyder. Now, certainly I think they felt the same way at Michigan. So this is one that'll be really exciting to see where he ultimately chooses to go. Tennessee had him on campus for a game at the end of last year. I don't think he, talking to him after that experience, he said there was nothing like Neyland Stadium. He loves the style of play, the offense. Tennessee's had running backs drafted the last 2 NFL drafts. Coach Heupel and company have been able to show him what they've been able to do with guys of his skill set and offenses going back to their time at UCF and before, someone that can be a difference maker in the pass game, running between the tackles on the perimeter. He's got the whole tool bag. The relationship with Coach Sims, the way Tennessee supports their student athletes off the field with mental health and things of that nature, his family has highlighted in the past. And Tennessee has a great chance to land Savion Hyder. I know they're right there on the NIL front as they battle Michigan. Now, the Wolverines, this is the number 1 overall prospect on the board for Michigan. I don't know if they'll go to Bryce Underwood levels to land Savion Hyder, but he is the guy that I think the Wolverines would draft number 1 overall this cycle. But Tennessee, the guys they've landed in this class, the Faison Brandons, what they've done with this football team, getting to the college football playoff last year, again, the offense, the game day atmosphere at Neyland, the relationship with the staff, where they're at on the NIL front. Tennessee is right there with a great chance to land Savion Hyder when he does ultimately announce his college decision. But so is Michigan. The Maize and Blue have been the front runner, been a front runner in this recruitment as long as anybody. Tennessee has really rose up since the end of last fall. I know I was kind of saying this calendar year, but that visit last fall, I went back and looked at my notes, was a huge needle mover. He was at 865 Live. Tennessee got the last official visit from Savion Hyder. Good dialogue continues with the Vol staff, and I wouldn't rule out Tennessee for Savion Hyder as he works towards his final decision.
All right, Steve, who else is Tennessee continuing to work on as summer winds down?
Well, Josh, that list obviously starts with the number 1 ranked receiver in the Rivals industry rankings, Tristan Keys out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He's committed to LSU, but Tennessee has been one of his favorites for the entire cycle. There's times where it looked like they led. There's been times where it looks like maybe they lead even since he's been committed to LSU. Tennessee's given him a lot to think about. So is Texas A&M. He's continuing through his process. Has a lot of love for LSU, the way they develop receivers, that coaching staff. But Tennessee, Texas A&M continue to come strong in this recruitment, and the Vols will have as good a chance as anybody for Tristan Keys down the stretch. A couple offensive linemen that they're in the thick of it for. Brody Smith's an in-state NFL legacy recruit that they've offered a scholarship to, that they're one of the finalists for. And then Kamari Blair, 4-star offensive lineman, committed to South Carolina. That day, that morning when he woke up, he was thinking he was going to be a Vol, but Shane Beamer, the Gamecocks, they were relentless, had a good Zoom with him the night before, got it done in the final hours. But Tennessee will continue to look to stay alive with in-state offensive lineman Kamari Blair. Another guy that they will continue to recruit committed elsewhere from my neck of the woods, defensive lineman J.J. Finch from Indianapolis. He popped for Alabama this summer. Tennessee's recruited him as long as anybody. They're going to continue that relationship and dialogue as they try to flip him. Tristan Gibbons, Hezekiah Harris. Those are 2 other pass rushers that Tennessee isn't giving up on. One committed to Auburn, one committed to Texas A&M. So Tennessee, they're one of the more exciting teams to follow on the trail right now. If they land Keys, Hyder, Celeste, is that a top 5 class? The algorithm puts them in good shape there at a very top-heavy class for them. And then certainly there's some other positions of need on the offensive line and pass rusher that they continue to shoot for as they finish this 2026 cycle. And then there's one more 5-star out there for Tennessee that we need to talk about more. It's offensive lineman Darius Gray. LSU and South Carolina have been the perceived favorites for much of his process, but I talked to Darius earlier this week when he dropped his decision date. And the Vols, he said, are a program recruiting him as hard as anybody. He's had great visits to Knoxville, talked to some sources around UT. They feel like they're very much in it. Darius Gray says that's a program really rising in his recruitment, and they are on the gas for another 5-star as they push towards what we just said, Josh, a potential top 5 class.
Yeah, and I think that if you add in all those names that you just had, even most of them, I mean, they're going to be pressing for a top 5 class, especially with Savion Hyder, if they can pull that one off. All right, let's move on and talk a little LSU recruiting. Tiger fans are on 5-star commit watch with Darius Gray now having a decision date, the number 1 ranked interior offensive lineman in America. Seems like he's ready to sit down with those hats. Steve, give us the details.
Yeah, LSU, South Carolina have been the programs that we've always had a keen eye on for Darius Gray. Tennessee is a program that has surged down the stretch for him. The communication has ramped up. Look, for Darius Gray, his decision, where can I win a national championship? Where can I get the best development? Where do I have the best relationships? LSU, South Carolina, Tennessee, the three I'm looking at the hardest. My prediction remains on LSU, but the Gamecocks have led at times. I've had my prediction on South Carolina and Shane Beamer, but LSU, Brad Davis, Brian Kelly, the history and track record of offensive line development, playing for titles in Baton Rouge, relationship with the coaching staff, offensive coordinator Joe Sloan involved. I think LSU is in a strong position as they try and hold off the Gamecocks, try and hold off Tennessee for one of the most coveted players in the country, regardless of position.
All right. Now, that's not it for LSU. They're also chasing number 2 wide receiver Jace Matthews. There's some buzz around LSU in this August 8th decision for him.
Yeah, Jace Matthews' recruitment's interesting because around the Plains and around Auburn, confidence is high that he will ultimately end up playing for Hugh Freeze and company. But when you talk to sources around LSU, you talk to sources around A&M, you have conversations with Jace Matthews, and you feel out his recruitment through his words. LSU and A&M are right there. And I think that around Baton Rouge and College Station, I think they get the sense that those are the top 2 and Auburn's running 3. So it'll be really interesting to see where it really falls for Jace Matthews. But LSU's had fantastic visits with him. They're having great conversations with him. I think they're checking the boxes from an NIL front. And they're right there for Jace Matthews down the stretch of this recruitment as they try and add another elite receiver to what is already arguably the top receiver class in the country. Now, they got to hold on to Tristan Keys.
Yeah.
But Jace Matthews is also from Mississippi, number 1, number 2 in the country. If you land Jace Matthews but lose Tristan Keys, the blows obviously softened in that regard as well. LSU's got a great shot at Jace Matthews. Talked with him again yesterday. Dialogue is regular. They're right there for one of the most coveted playmakers in the land.
All right, Steve. Who else is LSU making a priority right now?
Well, Deuce Gerald's. He's going to announce his commitment on Saturday, potentially on the Rivals Recruit channel. We'll let you know as the week continues. But Oregon is the program that's been trending on the Rivals prediction machine, including my pick. But talking to sources around Deuce Gerald's, LSU, a program that he grew up rooting for, had great visits with, is giving the Ducks a challenge down the stretch, pushing Oregon to sign Deuce Gerald's. Now, my prediction is still on Oregon, but I am not sleeping on LSU in the final week of this recruitment.
LSU fans, talk to us. A lot of big upcoming decisions. Let us know how you're feeling. All right, Steve, let's talk uncommitted 5 stars coming off the board soon. And do we agree or disagree with the Rivals recruiting machine prediction? So let's see. We'll start with Savion Hyder because he's the number 1 running back in America, number 8 overall. August 19th is his decision date. Let's take a look at the RPM. 27% Ohio State, 24% UGA. Do we agree or disagree with the Rivals RPM here?
We could not disagree more. Those 2 programs are in the Final Four, but look to be a distant 3rd and 4th at this point in Savion Hyder's process. Michigan and Tennessee are the favorites, could go either way. I've felt Michigan more than any program for Savion Hyder throughout his recruitment, but in the final weeks, the Vols are certainly right there, a program he loves, the atmosphere on game day, the style of play on offense, what Heupel's historically done on offense, utilizing the running back relationship with Coach Sims, being in the SEC. Those are things that are exciting to Savion Hyder. And then with Michigan, longstanding relationship with Tony Alford, the fit, cultural, on and off the field, in the locker room, the way Michigan showcases the running back in their offense, the pro-style offense, the way they support their student athletes on and off the field, and him being Michigan's number 1 target regardless of position. Those are the 2 programs that are in the best shape for Savion Hyder, in my opinion, going into his upcoming commitment in August.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if the recruiting prediction machine needs an oil change or recalibration, but let's see if we agree with these next couple. We might have to send it in for some work. Safety Braylon Womack, number 21 overall. He's the number 1 safety in America, and he'll make his decision on August 21st. The recruiting prediction machine says Ohio State, 77% and Auburn 6%. Do we agree or disagree?
I don't disagree with that order. I maybe disagree with the authority of that order. If Ohio State checks all the boxes, I think they ultimately get it done. I think we're in the negotiation phase of Braylon Womack's recruitment. He has been on the visits, took his OVs, knows how he fits in schematically, culturally, with all these programs. Now it's about dotting I's and crossing T's from an NIL perspective, having these final conversations and seeing where the market's going to be for this elite safety here at the end of his process. Ohio State has already landed Blaine Bradford. I do think that they will be on the gas at the end for Braylon Womack, so I could certainly see him in the Buckeyes class. Auburn has really risen up in this recruitment. The official visit was massive, having his sister on campus, part of the softball team, a nice little cherry on top. But DJ Durkin, the scheme, the way he fits in, the way he fit in with the players, the trajectory of the program, and then certainly Auburn being competitive in the NIL arena. They've made the biggest move this year, this summer, for Braylon Womack. Florida's in the picture. Aggies battling as well. There are some sources that say, hey, I think Ohio State's fourth in that group. I'm not ready to say that. I got Ohio State in the top two, and I think if Ohio State checks all the boxes, I think they'll be hard to beat. But Auburn is certainly giving Braylon Womack a lot to think about, and I could definitely see him saying War Eagle when it's time to commit. We'll see what happens with these talks and negotiations over the final few weeks. This is a no-brainer prospect, a dominant player on both sides of the football, a rangy safety that can turn the ball over for you, make plays, be a leader on the back end. So it's easy to see why it's so competitive in this recruitment down the stretch and why he's so coveted. How far will these teams take it? That's where we're at in the process of Braylon Womack.
All right, so we agree with the recruiting prediction machine, at least on the order there. Ohio State, Auburn leading the way in this recruitment. Let's see what it has to say for interior offensive lineman Darius Gray, number 31 overall. August 22nd is his decision date. We got LSU, 51%, South Carolina, 33%. Steve, do we agree or disagree?
I think that math's pretty good. I would give South Carolina more of that market share, and then I would put Tennessee on the board with a little bit of a slice of pizza on my circle. And then we'll see what happens. I mean, those are the three programs I think are in the best shape. LSU, the chance to win a national title, the offensive line track record of development under Brian Kelly is maybe second to none in college football right now. When you talk about all the guys that played under him at Notre Dame, and then this past year's NFL draft and the way LSU, Will Campbell going in the first round, that resonates. And then relationship with the staff, Coach Davis, Coach Sloan. LSU's done a fantastic job, and it was kind of a dream school for him before his process started. South Carolina, no program has recruited him harder, longer, great relationships, been to campus a bunch, loves where Coach Beamer's taken that program, thinks that they can go to another level. He would obviously be a huge part of that. And then Tennessee, it's really ramped up over the last month from a relationship standpoint. They made the college football playoff. Coach Ellerby, Coach Heupel, the chemistry that they have together is resonating with Darius Gray. So the Vols have moved up the list. My predictions on LSU, South Carolina is the program that I look to next, and then Tennessee.
All right, moving right along. We got one more to look at. Edge Anthony Tank Jones. He announced that an announcement is coming in the next week or so, so TBD on an exact date. But when we look at the recruiting prediction machine, we got Alabama leading at 31% and Auburn, who's not even in his top three when he made the cut, at 25%. So obviously we disagree with that. Do you agree with Alabama out front, and who would you have second?
I honestly don't know. Tank Jones going to commit before his season. His dad told me at the end of last week a decision is coming soon. I feel like there is confidence around Alabama, the indicators, what he's saying to the Tide staff, what he has said about the program to me in the past has definitely shown that Alabama is in great position. But there are sources around Oregon, around Texas A&M that feel like he does indeed leave the state. Those two programs maybe being in the best shape over Alabama. Now, A&M, I don't think he's got better relationships from head coach to coordinator to potential position coach than A&M right now. He's been there a bunch, feels at home, likes the trajectory of the program. And then Oregon went into Alabama last year and landed the number one ranked player in the state, Naeem Alford, who was committed to Ohio State for much of his process. And Auburn was the school everyone was pointing to as flip wash. And there was even buzz. Hey, Naeem Alford's a silent to Auburn. He's going to flip to Auburn. It's just a matter of time before he's a Tiger. And Naeem Alford's dad told me, my son is not going to Auburn. And he ended up being right. His son went to Oregon. And so we don't rule Oregon out for the number one player in the state in this cycle, 2026. Tank has taken more visits to Oregon. That's been documented. The Ducks are right there at the end for this prize pass rusher as well. I'm fascinated. I'm excited to see where it goes. He was one of the first prospects in this class to jump on the radar nationally, and his process is finally coming to an end. And A&M and Oregon have done a fantastic job. Alabama was probably the program he saw himself at when the process started, but these other two programs giving him a lot to think about.
All right. Drop your percentages on these uncommitted 5 stars. You guys are the real recruiting experts. Let us know in the comments section what percent, who leads on what recruit. Let us know. All right. Let's talk 2027 top quarterbacks. Why? Because if you blink, you might miss them. Number 2 ranked quarterback, Teddy Gerard. Last Thursday, he already committed. He is heading to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So let's take a look at who's up next. Well, number 1 quarterback for the 2027 class, Elijah Haven out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Steve, set the table for this recruitment, and how long do you think we got to wait for his decision?
Well, there's 4 schools that have extended a scholarship that are definitely heavy in the mix for Elijah Haven at this point in this process. Obviously, local LSU. They consider offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach Joe Sloan family. His father, Kwame Haven, Elijah's dad, referred to Joe as like an uncle, a cousin, a neighbor type. They've communicated with him so much. They've been over to the local campus numerous times. The way they developed Joe Burrow over there, Jaden Daniels, the history, competing for titles, it checks a lot of boxes for him. But he is certainly going through his process, and there are some other programs that are giving him a lot to think about. That starts with Michigan. The Maize and Blue, been up there several times. What Michigan, how they support their athletes on and off the field, style of play, Coach Moore coming in potentially behind our guy Bryce Underwood, who's on the cover of the Wolverine football preview. Those two have connected, traded numbers. Bryce is helping recruit Elijah. Michigan is definitely in great position. They want to get back to the big house this fall for a game. Alabama, they were at the win over Georgia last year. That environment, potentially playing in games like that inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, getting around Coach DeBoer, Coach Sheridan, Ryan Grubb coming back to help call the offense for Alabama. That stuff's all enticing. They've enjoyed all their experiences in Tuscaloosa. Florida is recruiting them as hard as anybody. That's another advantageous depth chart runway to potentially play early after DJ Lagway exhausts his eligibility. Coach Napier, Coach Callaway, Coach O'Hara have done a great job connecting with Haven and his family. They'll get to Florida for a game this fall. And so those are the 4 schools. He's going to go to the Ohio State game against Texas. That's the plan. The Buckeyes have not offered. If they do offer, they would become a contender. They obviously have Edmonds already committed in 2027, one of the top-rated passers out of California. But they continue to have dialogue with other quarterbacks. They offered Teddy Gerard, who committed to Notre Dame last week. So it's obvious that Ohio State is talking to other quarterbacks at this point in the cycle, Elijah Haven being one of them.
Elijah Haven from Baton Rouge. I got to think that LSU is the team to beat here because, Steve, here, pop question for you. How many number 1 recruits in the state of Louisiana has LSU landed in the last 10 years?
Well, it's interesting because LSU's in on several of these top young quarterbacks, Josh, when you're talking about Haven, Nussmeier's little brother, who they're in the top 3 with Alabama and Florida, for him. So the Gators mentioned with Nussmeier, Haven, LSU is in there. Alabama's in with both those guys too. So they're in there. And then Peyton Houston, another in-state arm that LSU covets. USC is trending on the Rivals prediction machine, including my pick for Peyton Houston. But LSU has been on the gas this offseason for Peyton Houston, giving him a lot to think about staying home too. So it's just what quarterback, how do the dominoes shape, who's ready to pop first. LSU would take a commitment from any of those three guys right now if they called. So that also factors into where does Elijah Haven land? Well, where does Peyton Houston land? Where does Nussmeier land?
How many has LSU landed in the last 10 years? Number one players in the state of Louisiana.
Are you proposing the question in a way that I'm going to say all of them?
No, they've landed 8 out of 10. The two that they missed on, Jacoby Matthews, not much of a miss to Texas A&M, who's now at Auburn trying to figure it out. And then, of course, Arch Manning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But outside of that, they have swept the number one player in the state of Louisiana. So we'll see what happens here with Elijah Haven. Shout out to Shea Dixon of the Bengal Tiger. He wrote an article on that. That was not my own research, but it was a good article. All right, let's move on. Number 3 quarterback, Jace Johnson. He's going to make his decision this weekend, set the table. Who are the hats on that table?
Well, Texas A&M, Tennessee are a couple of the programs that have given him a lot to think about early in his process. South Carolina, another school that really resonated with him and did a good job recruiting him. But I like where Mike Elko, Coach Klein, and the Aggies are at for Jace Johnson as they look to get their 2027 class off and running. Top 10 haul in 2025, potential top 5 haul in 2026. You get Jace Johnson early in the fold to help recruit guys. Texas A&M is a program that you're going to have to keep an eye on early as the potential number 1 overall class with how talented the Lone Star State is in 2027 and the names that they're in on in that cycle on the offensive and defensive line in the secondary as well. But Jace is someone that'll get that class off and running. Has had a couple fantastic visits to campus for Texas A&M. I think that's where he ends up committing this weekend, and my Rivals prediction machine choice reflects that.
All right. Now, we're going to keep talking about these top quarterbacks as the year goes on, but number 10 quarterback, Keegan Croucher, has a few schools starting to stand out. There's some buzz around his recruitment. Steve, break it down.
Yeah, he's got 3 visits on the radar for the fall. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Coach Charlie Weiss Jr. and company have done a great job recruiting him. He loves the offense, the vibe with the program, and where Coach Kiffin and company, the level that he has them playing at. Ole Miss is a major contender for Keegan. So is Oregon, the Ducks, Will Stein, conversations with him, what they've done with Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, the off-field opportunities playing for a program of that magnitude with the ties to Nike and everything. Keegan Croucher definitely very high on Oregon. And then another program doing a fantastic job recruiting him right now, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Could he eventually be the cover boy of Blue and White Illustrated season preview? What they've done with Drew Aller, his conversations with Coach Franklin, Coach Danny O'Brien and company, the offense, the level of play, the atmosphere in State College, the environment. He's been there a bunch already. Penn State, a major player in that recruitment. Michigan is involved. Several other schools have offered. He'll add more visits this fall, but those 3 are already on the itinerary for one of the most coveted arms in 2027.